Haley's show, and my guest today is Doug Vermeeren. And Doug, you're going to be talking about a film, and we talked about in the green room about the law of attraction and how you've been involved in projects similar to this one before. And it's great to have you back on again, Doug, to talk about this project. How are you today?
I'm doing awesome. And of course, this is the subject I very much love. So I'm excited to be with you.
And we're going to talk about, in your film, How Thoughts Become Things, continues the powerful conversation started by The Secret. What inspired you to dive deeper into this topic now?
You know, what's interesting is I really felt like The Secret was the beginning of a conversation, right? It got us all thinking about things and looking at the next level. And in the film, they talk about thoughts do become things. And there's a lot of materials out there that talk about the importance of our thoughts. And really what we think about most is what comes about, what we create. There's not really ever been a project that's gone into detail about that, especially with the cast from the original Secret, bringing them back to say, okay, you've told us about this thing called the law of attraction. You've told us that our thoughts have power. Now teach us how to harness that. And the thing that was also interesting is that this film really, I think, is coming at an important time. If we look that many of us are still recovering from a change of life that the pandemic created for us. Many of us are looking at challenges with the economy. And of course, many of us are having challenges in whether it's everything from family life to whatever else is going on in our world. So I think what better time for us to really tap into our thoughts and reshape them so that we can kind of take control of the reality again.
And our thoughts, really, it's so true. Let's dive deeper. And that's part of the Secret, but I want to go deeper into this, Doug, in this conversation. I could have about 5-hour conversation too. Like today, I was having some challenges. I just went into one of my favorite books on tape. It's called Dollars Want Me. And I just listened to it over and over again. And it gets me that. But I have self-hypnosis every night. And when I'm not listening to self-hypnosis and certain things I watch on television absolutely come true for me. But I try to focus on the positive, even if it's a negative, and to vision myself potentially having something like this. And then it happens. And sometimes it happens subconsciously and you're like, what's happening here? But you said you finally went deeper into this. How deep are we going into The Secret now?
The reality is there is the element that they talked about before with the quantum physics and these types of things. But I don't think we need to go that complex to start seeing changes into our life. In fact, you hit upon a really interesting thing when you just said, I watch TV and then suddenly something from TV appears in my life. I think one of the biggest things that most people don't realize is that our thoughts are in fact shaped by the things that we allow to influence us, whether the TV shows we watch, the movies we see, the music we listen to, the people we hang around with, the websites we visit, all of these things contribute to the reality that we create based on our thoughts. And so I think that this is one of the really big elements that everyone can do differently is if you want to expand what you have, you start by expanding who you are. And if you think a little bit about this idea of thoughts becoming things, the movie's title is deliberate, How Thoughts Become Things. The reality is we all have thoughts. And there's not much we can do about the fact that the only time you can not have thoughts is when you're dead. Okay, so you're going to have thought. Now, the other thing is that our thoughts are always attracting things. And we also don't really realize that. Now, that word how is what the movie gets into. But I think that word how thoughts become things, that word become is a really important word that we often overlook. I love what Jim Rohn said once. And we all know Jim Rohn, the great motivator. He said, if you win the lottery and you want to keep it, you have to learn how to become a millionaire very quickly. And that word become appears there again. So here's the thing is, if you think about anything that any other human being has achieved on the earth, you can also achieve, but you will have to become something different. There's a reason why that person is able to do that. And this really begins with our thoughts. In fact, a lot of people look at the law of attraction and they think that you sit down on your couch, you imagine a Ferrari, and a Ferrari is going to pull up in your driveway. That's not really how the law of attraction works. What happens is when you say, I want the Ferrari, say, for example, your brain begins to recognize opportunities and things that you can do to change yourself, to change your habits, to change your activities that will bring you in proximity to the Ferrari. So really, that's the essence of the law of attraction. It's showing you the path. And now it's going to be up to you to conform to that path so that those things can become a reality in your life.
So it's a lot of times when you are going through struggles, it's how you look at things in life, how you look at a lens of every opportunity, how you look at each circumstance. Right. Some people,
it's interesting you say that because Wayne Dyer said that when we change how we look at a problem, the nature of the problem changes. And I think that's true. And it's not just for things that are unsuccessful or challenges, or problems. The reality is how we look at anything begins to change as we place ourselves into a new paradigm, to use the words of Bob Proctor, to shift the way we see things. And so it will make those shifts in our thought, allow our thoughts to first of all see that anything that we want is possible. That's the first thing. And then to identify with clarity, so the goal that is specific and clear becomes attainable and near. Until you have any degree of hope or specifics around it, it's very hard to get to work on it. You need to know the target before you can hit the target. And then as we begin to see that, we can start to what I call construct the probability around it. So as we increase the probability or the likelihood of it occurring in our lives by changing our behavior, changing our habits, starting with changing our mindset and our focus on things, we can start to see that it becomes possible and we begin to see the path. And I think that's a really big problem that a lot of people have is they don't invest the energy enough mentally to start seeing it as a reality.
Absolutely. And when you don't see it as a reality, it doesn't happen. That's the bottom
Well, you
line.
can't even recognize the path. It just becomes a wish or I want to.
Yeah.
And by the way, one of the things that I've taught in my seminars is the size of your success depends on the size of your butt. Now, that sounds funny just saying the size of my butt. But it's a good way to remember it. Every time you say, but I don't have enough time, but I don't have enough money, but I don't know enough, you're actually cutting off the possibility of actually. And just remember that excuses never created anything. So the minute that we go down the pathway thought-wise of creating excuses or recognizing those buts, we're actually stopping ourselves from even seeing the path.
Right. And you can look at yourself and say, okay, I made this mistake. This mistake was not a mistake because you learned.
Correct.
So give you an example. A year ago, I saw things and I was allowing the world to make me think I can't grow what I want to grow or do what I want to do. And now I'm like, wow, I was mistaken. So
you say that. Albert Einstein once said, you'll remember, that problems are never solved at the same level of thinking that was used to create them. And the problem is most of us, again, we look at what the problems are, we look at the challenges, and we aren't thinking at a higher level. Now, I want to add something else that I think is interesting that Albert did not mention. And that's that your problems actually don't need to be solved by you by yourself. If you think of every great major accomplishment in the history of the world, it's always been done by a team. And we've heard the saying that success leaves clues. But how often do we actually try to solve the problem with either those in our network or the examples of others that have become and so forth? So back to this idea of thought in regards to that, they say that you become like the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So if you spend time with 4 losers, you get to become the 5th. But if you spend time with 4 people who have answers, who can open insights, again, a problem is never solved at the level of thinking that was used to create it. We can use their genius, if you will, almost like a mastermind, to help us start thinking in a new level, in a new direction. So I think this is a big problem is, again, most people choose 4 influences for their thinking. They watch the wrong TV shows. They watch the wrong internet sites. They're not bringing in the very best to surround themselves with. Even, it's funny, when we did the movie, The Gratitude Experiment, one of the things that I love that Marie Diamond says, if you really want to feel gratitude immediately, clean your house. Because now you see that you've got more under your stewardship, more under your accumulation than you ever thought possible because you're taking care of it. And when you take care of the things around you, it will expand. Now, can you imagine surrounding yourself with people who have the same mindset that we take care of things so that we can have a better future? That will immediately involve you thinking differently. And again, back to this idea. It's so true. It's simple. But if you want to expand what you have, you must expand who you are. You'll never, ever have more by standing in the same place that you've always been.
And that's the thing, thinking, but also the thinking big. Understand you can create what you want when you want. I think with the mastery of AI coming out, that I absolutely believe there's nothing I can't create now. And the reason is because you have every resource available. You talked about surrounding yourself with the same people. If you do listen to lots of self-hypnosis every night, if everything that you're feeding into your brain is going to help grow you and develop you, you are surrounding yourself with those people. Then going out to the events and looking at the mentors that you really want to work with once you get to that specific point. Now you're even going to another level. And then when you imagine being in front of those people, it happens. It will happen. And it's happening right in front of me. But it's that creative thing that you think there's nothing I can't do. And
there's something interesting that you made me think about here. And I was thinking about this as you talk about the power of AI. And I use AI too in my life now. In fact, as I'm working on other movies and things, I'll get it to help me with ideas and things. But there's one thing AI cannot do that it needs you to do for it. And that's to dream. It cannot dream. It cannot create. It cannot come up with a big idea. It can only follow your instructions. So you must be a leader to AI, which means that you have to still have those influences that help you to think big, that take you to the next level. And then you become, again, the creator, that essentially AI is a paintbrush for you.
I'm lucky I get to talk to geniuses like you every day, right? I get it. The
Right.
people I get to talk to every day are amazing. My clients are amazing. The guests that I bring on my show are amazing. And I just continue to feed my brain. And then you feed your brain with the best stuff. But there's only a certain amount of time. So like when you are scrolling social media, you're saying there has to be a purpose to everything that you do. There is not a purpose to everything that you do. You're going to allow your subconscious to take control of you from your past or something else. That's my take. But the thing I look at, and I was in the same mode, I was rolling. I'm a creator. And I can create what I want, when I want. How?
But something interesting, just to continue down this pathway with Albert Einstein for a minute. You remember at one point he said the greatest power in the universe is compound interest. And I think that is very powerful, but I don't think it is the most powerful. I think the most powerful is, first of all, clarity is the most powerful purpose. When you know where you're going, when you know what you want, that is important. But the second behind it, even before compound interest, is to learn how to delay immediate gratification. So if we know how to get clarity and then also stay focused and not distracted by, again, scrolling on social media and finding things that don't fit, it's okay to scroll if you can find things that fit with your mission, because there's a lot of helpful stuff online, a lot of things that are powerful. But if we're distracted and taken away, again, immediate gratification, we want to watch somebody play with their kitty cat or eat lunch or something stupid that doesn't really serve us on a higher level, it's pulling us away from what we need to do. Again, everything that we say yes to instead of no takes us away from our mission. So we have to have that clarity, first of all, what our mission is, but secondly, the fortitude to say this is a fit, this fit, and invest and inject our time into the things that are going to lead us closer to what we really want.
Yeah, there's certain people that don't believe in the secret, but if you look at those successful people, defining them success in anything in life, it could be health, wealth, whatever. You could be successful in anything, and you're like, you've really accomplished life, but you have to have high standards. You have to perform to the highest level, and you also have to believe you can. If you look at all the top athletes, some of them might not, they're not into the secret or into this whole understanding, but if you look and study Michael Jordan, you study the people that had that mindset, they accomplished it because they knew they could.
But it comes back also to what I was just saying. Michael Jordan knows what he wants. He knew exactly what he wants. So there's clarity, but he also said no to a lot of stuff. And he got very focused on what was his job. If you think about this, let's take a professional athlete. How many of them are out there selling tickets to their events? How many of them are cleaning the uniforms of their players? How many are booking the hotels and the travel for the team to go someplace? They don't do any of that crap. All they do is get good at what they are doing. And this is, by the way, I studied more than 4 of the world's top entrepreneurs, and I found something really interesting that contradicts what we are taught. You hear it often. Get out of your comfort zone if you want to be successful. You got to do all these things that are uncomfortable. And I'm going to say that's total crap. The top achievers that I interviewed actually got into their brilliance zone. They recognized what they were really good at. And the stuff that they were mostly uncomfortable with, they delegated to other people. You need to really run your life like a funnel. Now, if we hold a funnel kind of this way, you'll notice that's people who do everything. And in the end, they get little, right? Like a funnel looks like that. If you're going to do everything, you're going to get little. But if you turn it upside down, so the top is narrow and the rest is wide, now you're being very focused, very committed, very clear with what you want, very intentional, and you will get everything. It'll all open up. And I think that this is the problem with, again, too many success teachers now with this idea around comfort zone, get out of your comfort zone. There are some things that you will have to do that will be uncomfortable, but you need to be more selective on what those are. And they need to fit with clarity into where you're headed. For example, I'll never do my own dental work. I'll never cut my own hair. I'll never do my own taxes. I'll never build my own websites. Why do I need to waste time with that? And if you remember the book Outliers with Malcolm Gladwell, he said to become an expert at any given thing takes 10,000 hours. So I'm not going to waste 10,000 hours trying to get good at something that's not going to affect my bottom line or take me closer to my dreams. Exactly. I can hire someone for that.
All right. The best place people can find the film. Because again, this is really going to give us the next clarity of where to go if you're definitely into The Secret and seeing all the different things. Where can they go, Doug?
Yeah, in fact, on any streaming service right now, we're inviting people to go to Apple TV and just type in How Thoughts Become Things, just because that's the easiest. Everybody pretty much has it, especially if you've got an Apple device, but you can find it on a variety of streaming services. Of course, you could even Google How Thoughts Become Things and the movie will come up for you.
All right. Thanks again, Doug. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
You're listening and watching The Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.